Welcome to this edition of Trader Talk TV. Today we've got Nick Halstead in the office. Nick, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Today we're talking about identity. It's a big subject in the space, and obviously with the Facebook results yesterday where they made a ton of money. I think they're up to 55 billion a year now, and I think Google's up to 100 billion. And one of the big advantages they have is the ease of purchasing inventory across their first party domains. So today we're going to talk about that particular problem, Nick, and obviously what you guys are doing in the space, because you've got an interesting product coming out this year. But Nick, just a bit about yourself, because probably you're an unknown in the ad tech space, so just give us a little bit of a background about you.
Sure. So about 14 years ago, built a company called DataSift. That was the number one company really working with social media, letting people do the analytics across the whole world of Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of them.
And you're the man who actually created the retweet button, is that right?
I did, yes. Yeah.
Oh my God, so many retweets. Thank you, Nick, for that wonderful invention. So talk about the existing problem. What's the problem at the minute? Like, you know, obviously Facebook and Google make it easy for everything, but the rest of us struggle. So what's the biggest problem?
Well, the problem is that Facebook and Google have their walled gardens. They have a consistent view of customers across their user base. They know the identity of them. They know the demographics of those users. They know the behavior data across all of them consistently, but they don't own all the eyeballs. You know, the publishers of the world, even though they only get 20% of the revenue, actually, no one really knows how many, but, it's got to be 10 times, 100 times more eyeballs than Facebook and Google, but they don't get the revenue for that because, everything's so fragmented.
And obviously the premium as well, premium context. So talk about, obviously the other big problem in the space is the GDPR issue, the laws have passed this year. I know we've already seen a big fine for Google, and there's more coming. So you've built a solution which is quite interesting, that sort of is very GDPR compliant and actually gives publishers a chance to compete with those big sort of duopoly behemoths. So talk a bit about the actual platform you have and how it helps publishers and marketers, and also sort of complies with the current GDPR laws. Yeah.
So the two things we focus on is around commercial trust of data and around data privacy. So this was, we believe, the only platform that was being built from the ground up to the way that we handle data compliant is thrown around everywhere. Everyone talks about being compliant, but we actually use differential privacy by design as part of the actual core technology. So the core of that, and how we are helping publishers and how we're helping brands and everyone join their data together to be able to compete with the duopoly, is that in essence we're allowing people to combine their knowledge but without me having to hand the data to the other party. So if me and you wanted to, we're both publishers and we've got different knowledge about those customers. You work for Auto Trader, I work for another publisher. You've got great information about, what kind of cars people are looking at, but you wouldn't ever give me your data, would you?
No. My first party data is mine.
Yeah, exactly. But so that basically means that you always stay as this little silo. You can't ever get any bigger. Whereas, again, compared with Facebook, they know in their Facebook group of people that are talking about cars, what they're buying, they all of that knowledge overlaid with everything else they've got. So if you imagine using our tech where you don't have to give me that data, but I can actually combine the knowledge with me by using our platform, we can actually work together. And then you think beyond just two parties, think 100 parties that everyone can work together.
All right, let's see how it works then. Let's talk about the process that you go through to actually making this work.
Yeah, okay, so let's imagine that we have us two as A and B as two publishers. What actually happens is, let's say you were Auto Trader and you want to basically put data in our platform. We have a onboarding system where we create what we call a bunker. That bunker basically sits It sits in the cloud, but it can also sit inside, Auto Trader's own firewall somewhere as well. But
so this is my instance.
This is your yes. So right. You basically run a copy of our software. You put the data in it. So let's say that there's a as such this vault in there, and let's draw a rubbishy padlock. The data goes inside that, and it literally, so we run the software for you. But the key bit, and then let's say the other publisher does exactly the same. They've got their padlock here. When I actually want to combine the knowledge between those two, what actually happens is, and I basically want to combine cars that I buy with income data from a bank over here, something like that. We have this magic ability where we combine this two without transmitting data. And what this here is a mathematical model. And what it basically means is, when we connect the knowledge together to query them, I'm not actually transmitting any of the raw data between the two.
Okay, so let's talk about the actual process itself. So I will take my first party data, so that could be subscription data or website data or whatever, and it's put into my instance of the bunker, right? And then from that, I build specific custom segments, or how does that work?
Yes. So the two bits. So let's say you've got these 3 bits of different data. So as you say, your CRM, your audience behavior data from the website. So call it web, and you could also say mailing lists or marketing cloud data here. All of these, as you say, are a lot of this is a lot of PII in each of these.
Of course.
So normally these would never ever get mixed together.
Yeah.
You can't put PII into a traditional DMP. From a privacy perspective, you just can't do that. So the two things we do here is each of these have got not just PII, they've got bits of knowledge that go alongside them. So what we're basically doing is, let's say this party's got the same thing, they've got a load of attribute data. Our platform basically both deals with the identity joining. How do I find these people here and find, so where is Kieran here and does he exist over here?
Yeah.
And we basically do that by standardizing the way that you can attach IDs together. So if there's combinations of email address, name and address, other kinds of information, we can join that knowledge, but without, again, having to actually transmit that data between them. And at the same time, use any of the knowledge that goes with this to create custom segments. So the way the world currently thinks about targeting is very much, to me, feels like a very flat world. Is you have your happy shopper segment, and you go, I want to target everyone inside that happy shopper segment. If you go to Facebook, what can you do? You can basically use a whole range of demographic attributes. You can use behavioral data, but while you're using that, you can also look at the analytics of, when I make those changes, what does that audience then look like? What we basically mean is, let's say you add 15 attributes across all of these data sets, and you've got 10 attributes over here. What we basically give you is access to all of those 25 attributes to create a segment, and I can just pick and choose any one of those to define a custom segment.
And you've got an interesting way of doing this, because this is obviously PII data, but you convert it using you've got a global schema that allows these disparate data sets to speak to each other. Now, remember that you're taking this and converting into non-PII custom segments.
Yep.
Likewise here. But because you've created this global language between the two, it means that you can match up both. Is that correct?
That's right. So, a common problem when you're trying to integrate data together is something like, simple as marital status. One database may show it as married, not married. One would be, remarried. One might be divorced. Now, those two data sets then won't talk to each other. We use, as you said, this global schema where we map all the data into a range of predefined taxonomies. That means that both parties only have to map into that global schema, but don't have to worry about that this data set's completely different, or another data set over here is completely different, or another data set over here is completely different.
So you've created, again, it has to be, this is all GDPR compliant, because this is an instant of the company's data that never gets shared to any third party, right? This is all logged in or sort of opted in data from this particular publisher. And then you create your custom segments using the global schema, which allows these disparate parties to talk to each other.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So this would create a way to do the type of granular targeting that only Facebook and Google have currently.
It's being able to bring all the parties together who, and my belief is that each of the individual publishers actually have the better data, don't they? The first party data that they have on us is actually much stronger than the data that mostly the Googles and Facebooks have. It's just not ever been able to be leveraged.
Yeah. I take it that the sort of thinking behind this is to make it easy as well, right? So if you think about, we were just talking about how easy it is to buy on the Facebook platform. You pick a segment, and you can literally target on a global platform like Facebook.
Yeah.
But this kind of does something similar. You're able to do that type of deep dive granular targeting.
Yeah, it's to me this is coming back to why does Facebook have 5 million buyers? And the DSP market has 30,000 buyers, is because when you get into smaller buyers, they really need to be able to buy smaller segments. And without the tools to be able to define those small segments accurately, you can't grow that market. So being able to leverage that accuracy is both better for the publishers because segments can be bought at a higher value, but it also opens the market so that the number of buyers can increase as well.
So, but you're also kind of jumping over another hurdle, which is basically, I don't want to share my first party with you. You're able to do this in a way that now we can match this in a way that hasn't been possible before.
Yeah, I think the key element is here why most, or pretty much all co-ops have always failed in this space is that it's always required that this bit is actually a central location of data where everyone had to pile in their data, and it meant every new party had to trust everyone else in there. What we're doing is meaning that no one is actually having to centralize that data. I'm not having to give up the raw knowledge that I own. I'm just becoming part of a network, a trusted network, because they're not each giving the data to each other. So that's the big change here, is we could have, our goal is, thousands of publishers bringing their knowledge together without any risk of them handing that actual raw data to each other, and at the same time of meeting the privacy requirements, all future requirements, not just GDPR, because we've obviously got e-privacy coming, we've got the US CCPA coming, so we meet all of those and go way beyond them and allow the publishers actually to talk in a positive sense about privacy,
because it is. You're hiving off that, because the problem is with GDPR is you're trying to match PII to a cookie, and it's just like in the past, and it's just got messy, and it just doesn't become possible.
Yeah, I mean,
and there obviously are, there's definitely advertisers like banking, insurers that are very, very, and rightly so, possessive of their own first-party data.
Of course, and the reality is the industry's technology stack has been around a very long time. We think we are invented completely from scratch, designed to be able to be a new era of where privacy has to be at the heart of the way businesses hold their data on behalf of their customers. But at the same time, it's not good enough just to be privacy compliant, is it? There's got to be a strong commercial reason why you're doing this as well. So, we think we've got a strong argument that we can show to publishers and brands that they can be more responsible about how they hold data, that they're not having to hand it over to, hundreds of other companies. But at the same time, the commercial element is we all want to act together to be able to be greater than, the sum of the parts.
And do you think there could be some interesting sort of trading with each other? Like, so the Guardian go out to the other traders, I need to get some of this. I want to match my data with your data, and I'll give you a share of the campaign, or or there'll be a transaction for specific segments.
Yeah, there's this element of second party data suddenly becomes a reality. So where if I'm not having to, if the bank's got that great data and they want to be able to use that, but without again the risk of handing that over, then that creates a second party marketplace. And our job isn't to leverage the value of the data. Our job is just to be the introductory service and the technology that lets facilitate it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting how I'd be interested to see how an agency would use this. I mean, you're talking to some agencies in a minute who are very interested in this, because there's always the fear from clients about mixing data. So we've had an incident where Rocket Fuel was exposed as mixing and matching their clients' data. This actually would probably, you could have several instances for clients at the agency level to do some interesting stuff.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is you can have another, let's say, instance over here, which is the agency themselves acting on behalf of both these parties, where the agency certainly right now never wants to hold anyone's data. That's too much of a nightmare for them, a legal nightmare for them. With us, they can basically be sent. Our system works on permissions, so you basically, each of these parties could send permission to the agency, and they can have a team internally that then looks at the combined knowledge, can work on the actual defining the either research, defining the segmentation, and actually be able to start being more involved in this process. At the moment, I feel the agencies have been cut out of being able to be involved in a lot of the data work because they can't hold the data itself. In this world, they don't actually have to hold the data.
Yeah. So let's just talk about the final step of this. I mean, obviously, when you've built out, you've taken the PI data, which is part of the actual it's owned by the publisher.
Yeah.
You've converted it into these custom segments, which, along with your global schema, is able to talk to other disparate data sets within the InfoSum ecosystem.
Yeah.
Now the part is, how does the rubber hit the road in terms of the targeting piece? How do you get this out into the real world where you can target a specific user in, as we said, a GDPR compliant way?
Sure. So we have, just to draw another circle somewhere, let's have one up here, which is, this is we call an identity bunker.
Right.
And what that basically is, instead of these other bunkers, which are what we call insight bunkers, which contain fully anonymized the PII data along with the attribute knowledge, this identity bunker has no knowledge inside it. All it has is what's the audience that I know. So in this example, you had the auto trader, let's say, would actually have two bunkers that have the bunker that contains all of this data, which is what I know about people. And then they'd have a second bunker, which is who are they in terms of what's the identifier, either online or an ID that I need to use to actually go and target.
Yeah.
And what we actually do is we use all this knowledge here to create a segment. That segment then creates this mathematical model, and I send that model to the identity bunker to say, who inside your here do we actually know that matches that model? So what's great about that is that the auto trader doesn't have to tell anyone else in this network who they know in terms of the list of people, and the people that are defining the segment, be it the agency, be it the brand, be it anyone else, are not handing any of their knowledge to the publisher when they say, I want to activate. So both from a privacy perspective, we use, again, differential privacy and a whole lot of other aspects to guarantee that you're not targeting any one individual. But when I'm trying to find say there's 50,000 people on AutoTrader I want to find, I just send that model to there and say, now activate those people. But again, it goes way beyond the normal kind of privacy concerns.
Right, and do you connect to outside players? Is that how you're going to? Because you're obviously not going to have a cookie, right? And you're not going to get into that whole sort of business.
No.
Your business is essentially a level above that, which is basically helping publish advertisers connect audiences that are, as I said, GDPR compliant. But then you would connect this to outside players like the ID5s or
exactly. So this identity bunker could have a list of LiveRamp IDs, ID5 IDs. But if AutoTrader has obviously a very strong, probably logged in experience, they know what they're mapping between cookies and email registration, so we can have that data in there as well. So we can bridge. The goal for us is to be able to bridge where never before could you bridge the PII to the online behaviour. We can do all of that and take advantage of the great companies that have got that cookie kind of stuff sorted.
Okay, so the products in the market at the minute.
Yep.
What's the next step? So are you talking to some big publishers in the minute? And
yeah. So
advertisers,
we're trying to build a whole range of. What's been fascinating is the amount of cooperation people want to build, not just across publishers, but into panel companies, into e-commerce, and then within the brands themselves. I can't name a single brand that I've talked to that haven't then said, well, actually, internally, we have 10 separate data sets ourselves. We don't even have a single way of viewing our data before we bring that data then into the programmatic space.
Right.
So we also...
So there's a clean-up operation to be done within the brands themselves,
yes.
right? Okay,
yeah.
So you're helping them with that to begin with?
Yeah, we are, the tech is very much designed around consolidating the view of customers both at the brand and at the publisher side of things.
So what do you hope to see with this? Then you hope to see, using platforms like this, a shift away from Google and Facebook, because obviously we've seen Facebook's revenue spike yesterday, and it's down to the fact that their granularity, their ability to scale is phenomenal.
Yeah, we just want to make the 20% much more
20%ers, yeah.
Yeah, the 20%ers want to be, much more competitive, just being able to bring, I kind of see this intersect with what's happened in the last 10 years in the big data space. That's kind of failed most companies around the way they handle customer data in general. There's a general being a failure of being able to leverage the knowledge within companies. So we've got a grander vision of not just ad tech, of how do we solve the single view, the true single view of customer data, and being able to leverage that to empower the brand and empower the publisher.
All right, Nick. Well, thanks for the insight.
Thank you.
And the overview of the product. And it looks like we could have an interesting year ahead of us. There's a lot of companies like InfoSum going to be tackling this problem, so it's good to see it happening. So, Nick, thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much, Kieran.
And we'll see you next time on Trade Talk TV.